You mentioned like that also, like at the end of the day, even if you have certain teachings from your parents, the media ends up, you know, influencing a lot of the kids. And in Latin communities, you see that in the Latino community, the left grabs the most with the immigration issue, right? Because like
Right.
if the immigration laws, normally it's the left that passes it, the right is a bit more strict with that. But if you take that away, everything else in the
That's
Latino
conservative.
community is not on the left. Like, dude, even like with taboo bullshit, like the Latino community is not 100% comfortable with like gay people. You know what I
Mm.
mean?
Right.
So like, and I'm not saying me specifically, but I know like it's very conservative. It's a taboo. It's becoming less of an issue, but you know they're
Right.
very religious. They wouldn't really support abortion. So they, you know, they're like you gotta work hard and do your shit, and you know what I mean. So to me, all of that is very more on the conservative side. But then they stick in that immigration bullshit, which, well, you know, to me, it's like you cannot have open borders in any place. You know, as an immigrant myself, I've been filtered before I've been able to live anywhere. So there's a reason for that filtering. You know, I believe. You know, there's a reason why you want to try to integrate people that bring good things from the outside, but without
Mm.
destabilizing what you've already accomplished, you know, in your soil, like as an American or
Right.
wherever. So so no, I just saw a Prager thing where this Latino guy was saying like, look, man, I used to say like, uh, you know, that I used to get pulled over by the cops all the time, that they were out to get me, right? And then once I stopped being a gang member, you know, coincidentally, I never got stopped by the cops again. So
Mm.
this is not to ignore the instances where there might be profiling, right, towards
Right.
minority by
Right.
cops. But in general, if you do your shit right,
Facts.
you're not gonna like you're not gonna deal with cops. Like
Facts.
that's
Facts.
been my experience, you know, and you know to the point where like yeah, bro, and like I said, this not to ignore instances where you know there's exceptions and shit might go wrong, but in general, I just feel like in America and in first world countries, the mentality should be that you should be able to get whatever you want with your own effort.
Right.
And I think that this whole left, and this is happening worldwide, where they're feeding you this. No, you're entitled to this. You're in.
Mm.
No, I don't think no one is entitled to shit. The only thing you're
Facts.
entitled to is like your physical integrity, right? Like the country
Mhm.
should provide security so that no one can harm you, no one can take your private property. But
Right.
from that point forward, you gotta get your shit right. I don't know.
Right.
I think that's how I
Right.
look at it.
I totally agree with you on that shit, man. I think just to kind of add to that point, I think biologically in general, you know, I don't think I think maybe just based on how the world or the atmosphere around us in settings and stuff like that, a lot of people may just kind of sit around and just kind of wait for like handouts and shit like that. But I just think just in general, like as human beings, we just have a thing about us that we want to get up and do things. You know, we just want to get up and go out and go make something happen because we gotta. It's like a form of survival. Like, you know what I'm saying? You gotta get up and do something to eat every fucking day. You know what I'm saying? Like there isn't anything that's gonna stop you from doing that unless there's something, I don't know, maybe like some form of like depression, or you know, that makes you want to sit around and do nothing at all, you know, and
Right.
not want to go out and go get something for yourself, you know. I think just humans in general, like we have like a small form of like ambition, you know what I'm saying, to want to accomplish something on a day-to-day basis. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think it's like it's a biological thing to compete. Like
Right.
you know what I mean? Like like when they talk about socialism and shit, and they like, okay, look, you are gonna be a doctor, right?
Right.
And then Kiko, you're gonna whatever, you're gonna make hot dogs, right? Which is fine. I make some fire hot dogs, but you're both gonna get paid the same, right? And Dr. Patrick's gonna be like, yo, what the fuck? I study all this shit.
Right.
Like I'm doing this because I want this shit to, because at the end of the day, the money is not what you're really looking for. The money represents the effort and the win, right? It's like your scorecard.
Fact.
And obviously, having those resources to live a more comfortable life is gonna incentivize you to keep pushing that. So to me, it's like, just biologically, as animals that we are, it's impossible for you to expect people to live in a society where they're gonna be rewarded equally if they're gonna be putting unequal effort. I just don't see it. I don't see it possible. You know what I mean? There's gonna be somebody that's like, yo, what the fuck? I always use the example, like, if there's a classroom with 10 kids and they go and, okay, do this test, and everybody turns in the test, and then the teacher's like, all right, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add all of the scores, and then I'm gonna average them out, and that's gonna be the score of the whole classroom.
Right.
The next time they do a test, all the people that really work hard to get a good score in the first test, they're gonna be like, yo, fuck this shit, I'm not gonna get an A, and then the other motherfucker gets a fucking D or an F, and then I'm fucking dropped down to a C as a, fuck that. So it's like, when you combine it and you don't let the individual be an individual, I think that's what hurts the human the most. You know what I mean?
That makes a lot of fucking sense. Right. That's some profound shit on some real shit though. Yeah,
and I think that's what the left does. It's like, it puts you in a category, like, oh no, you're the Latino community, like you're the black community.
Right.
It's like, well, how about I'm just an individual and I want to kick ass in life, and that's it. Like,
right.
don't put me on no fucking group,
Right.
Like at some job or workplaces, they will have like little groups, like, and I'm cool with people like this. I'm just giving my opinion, like the Latino group, right, or the black group, or the Asian group, or the LGBT group. And I always thought, the fact that they share one thing in common with me, which is our ethnicity, how is that gonna, like, how does that say that we're gonna fucking like be friends or whatever? Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you're gonna make some like extracurricular group, might as well do it like on gaming. Like, who likes computer gaming or fucking football and shit? I'm gonna meet people that I actually want to hang out with. Instead of you like, oh, you're from Venezuela, okay, mingle. It's like, no, I don't like this motherfucker, or whatever. So that's what the left does, right? It puts you in these categories, and it's like, I think that's dangerous, because then your individuality is not, it's not being rewarded,
right?
So
that's some real shit, man.
Now, I saw some shit recently, which I thought was pretty funny. You mentioned earlier, like celebrities and social media affects the way that people look at politics. And as we know, or we've seen, for example, LeBron James is very outspoken about politics, and like pushing forward things for his own people, which, in the root of it all, I think it's like a noble thing. But I think also, if used incorrectly, could be a bit dangerous. And recently, there was this football player. His name is Zlatan Ibrahimovic. He played in the LA Galaxy recently. So he knows, I think at the time LeBron was playing in LA too. But this guy's like a beast football player. He's played in Barcelona. He's now playing in AC Milan in Italy. And they were asking him some shit. And he's always outspoken. He's like a kind of a bully. But they were asking him like about football, like celebrities in sports. And he was saying like, I don't like, he has like an accent, I don't like when some athletes like to get too much in politics, like LeBron James, like he should just do what he does. He's really good at basketball. He should do that. And in a way, it was kind of like shut up and dribble, but not really. But it was like, I feel like, for example, in the case of LeBron, he's always pushing this narrative that minorities in this country, in his case specifically the black community, has no hope. Like everything's against them. It's fucked. The game is rigged.
Right.
And again, not to ignore places where there might be some issues that could be, improved. But in the general scheme of things, I don't think that America, for anyone, from any ethnicity, it's an uphill battle. Like sometimes LeBron James makes it seem, which ironically, you know, this guy is like the best athlete in the world, right? So he got there somehow, right?
Right.
So, but I just thought it was funny that that this guy said that, because it was like nobody stands up to this guy and say something like, "Yo, shut up, man! Stop talking shit that you don't even know about," because then that would look like, "Oh, this guy doesn't support, you know, humanity or whatever."
Deception, bro. That's real, man.
But then there's like for me, the hypocrisy there is when they talk about the China situation in the NBA. They don't, you know, like the NBA is financed by China quite a lot, and in China they have some fucked up shit with like human rights things, you know.
Right.
I don't know if you've heard about the encampments they have for like a Muslim group there, and it's called
no.
This is actually okay, so this is like in China, there's this region where they have like some Muslim group, right? And the Chinese don't like them, so they have them on like concentration camps. It's like some horrible human rights thing. And whenever anyone wants to talk about like Hong Kong being free or China responding to those type of things, in the NBA they all shut up and they don't comment. So yeah, so in a way it's like you pick and choose where you wanna, you know, like support humanity, you know. I mean, there is the argument like, well, you support your own land, but I just find it hypocritical. Like sometimes some people just talk too much about shit that they don't know about, and celebrities influence people that way. Like people think that an actor is like some guy that's super smart, or a musician, and it's like, no, they're just really good at that. They're not fucking, yeah, they don't understand the world, you know, to that extent. But I wanted to ask you about one thing that's happening more and more nowadays with censorship and free speech on platforms. Do you see this as an issue, and do you think what's gonna happen in the future, like for other voices to be heard? Do you think there's gonna be new platforms? How do you see that going in today's world?
As far as like the censorship, man, because I deal with censorship like often. My Facebook page, like I will post a bunch of shit, you know, I'll post a bunch of information, and come to find out that more than half of the shit that I post, you know, not even 10% of the people, 10% of my followers or my friends would see it, you know? And it's like the things that they're not seeing are things that are very informative, or information that can, you know, lead them to think, or to just, you know, have like a different opinion about politics or the world around us, you know? As far as like platforms, I don't know. I think we, you know, like people like us that think along the same lines of things, like we will have to create our own platforms, man. Because right now, I just feel like all the platforms that are out there right now, they're tied to something bigger than itself, for whatever reason or whatever agenda. I don't know what's going on in the world right now as far as like censorship and shit, and why they're censoring just like particular viewpoints and opinions. But for me, I just feel like it's fucked up. You know, I feel it's fucked up, and we got to find some new ways of being able to express things, because as far as like, and I want to say this, I feel like a lot of what's going on with censorship and everything like that is not about us, like people in our age range. I think it's about the kids. You know, they're doing all this for the kids, because, you know, once you have the kids, you have the future. You see what I'm saying? So if they're able to shut us up right now, you know, they have control over how the children are raised and their, you know, perspective on the world around them. You know what I'm saying? So they have better control of the future in whichever direction they feel fit to lead the future. You dig what I'm saying?
Damn, yeah. That puts it like in a way, our generation, which we're the millennials, right? Like for so long, I used to laugh about like, oh, the fucking millennials, and then I came to realize, oh no, I'm the millennial, right?
Yeah, yeah.
There's some other shit. They're like Gen Z, or, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
YOLO, you know, whatever.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
but that you just said there sort of makes me think like, I mean, like when I started doing this podcast and all the shit that I do, I want to have fun, but I also sort of want to, in a way, like if every once in a while my message can have someone be like, shit, maybe that's like that, then that's worth it as well. And it almost feels like there's even more responsibility on us, our generation, that we know both sides, right? Like it's sort of like we know the before and we know the after, because we live that transition between the analog to the digital world. Right. It's almost like our duty and responsibility to fucking let the kids at the bottom know, like, hey, yo, a lot of this shit is fucking shady, and sort of spit the truth. Yeah, I'm almost hopeful. Like, even though it seems like fucked up, because like I'm growing my channels and my social media, and I always think like, what would happen if this motherfucker's just like, hey, we want to cancel your shit? Like, I'm fucked, you know? Right. So I'm always thinking like, I mean, I have my website and shit, but I'm always thinking like, there's gotta be eventually, and there's so many people that are demanding this because we need it. There's gotta be something that's gonna come up and not replace, but be like another, I don't know, YouTube or something, Instagram, where they're not fucking with what people say. You know what I mean? Because I think even with speech that could be considered hateful, it's like you battle that with better speech. You know what I mean? You battle that in the battlefield of ideas, because at the end of the day, if we allow an entity to say what is good and not good speech, you end up with somebody deciding what you can say. Like in Venezuela, if the opposition leaders said, everybody, let's go out to the streets and protest because, you know, we don't want to have this government, right? Which is legal. You can protest pacifically. And then the government would say like, oh, telling people to go protest, that's inciting violence. Right? So it's whoever interprets the law. So when you have a law that says you can prohibit hate speech, that hate speech will be defined by whoever is in power at that time and says what hate speech is. Right. So that's what I find dangerous that platforms are doing, because like at the end of the day, they're not being platforms, they're being publishers, right? Like the New York Times or whatever.
Man, you hit it on the head with that shit right there. Yeah. Absolutely. And
the problem is that they're getting the benefits of being like a telephone platform, where like you're not liable for any crime, right? Like if somebody orders a killing on a phone, right? The phone line company, you know, they're not responsible for that shit, because they're an open platform that allow anyone to use it. Right. And that's the umbrella where Facebook and all these platforms are in. But then when you start deciding who can say and who cannot, meaning who can have a cell phone line or not, now you're a publisher. Now you are editing the content that's coming out, and thus you should not have the same protection as a platform. That's really the discussion there. But the law it hasn't caught up to the technology, you know?
Right. Right.
So